What if the one person who could save your child didn't even have shoes? It was just another noisy Tuesday on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan, the kind of day where cab horns replaced birdsong and people's lives moved faster than the traffic. Elon Musk, hoodie pulled over his head, walked unnoticed through the crowd, one hand gripping the tiny fingers of his 6-year-old son, Noah. But something was wrong. It wasn't just the weight of the city or the cameras that sometimes caught glimpses of him. It was Noah, his small legs hung limp from his wheelchair, head tilted, gaze distant. He hadn't said a word in 147 days. Elon had counted. That silence was louder than any city noise. They'd just left yet another specialist. Another white coat, another scan, another answer that wasn't an answer. "We're doing everything we can, Mr. Musk," the neurologist had said, with practiced sympathy. But there's a limit to what the body can recover from, and to what science can do. Elon had nodded. Not because he believed her, but because believing in anything else hurt too much. Then, just as they passed a row of vendor carts selling knockoff sunglasses and pretzels soaked in too much salt, it happened. A voice. Not loud. Not demanding. Just steady. "Sir, I can make your son walk again." Elon stopped walking. His brain caught the words a full 2 seconds after his feet did. He turned. There, sitting barefoot on a piece of cardboard, was a boy. Maybe 11 or 12. Dirty face, oversized hoodie, jeans torn not for fashion but from use. One of his shoelaces was tied around his wrist like a bracelet. His eyes, the thing people always noticed last, were green like the edge of a thunderstorm. Clear. Sharp. Not pleading. Just, certain. "I said," the boy repeated, "I can help your son." The air shifted. Elon felt a chill that had nothing to do with the weather. He bent down slowly, squinting. "You're begging," he said flatly. "You don't know me." The boy tilted his head. "Everyone knows you. But you don't know my son." The boy's gaze dropped to Noah. The silence between them felt longer than it was. Then the boy said, with unsettling calm, "He's hurting more inside than out. But his legs still remember." Elon's throat tightened. Noah didn't respond, but his fingers twitched, just once, around Elon's hand. Coincidence, his brain said. But the pit of his stomach twisted. "Who are you?" Elon asked. The boy grinned slightly, like someone who'd heard that question too many times. "People call me Lucas. Sometimes. I don't really have a name anymore." Elon stared. Lucas blinked. "I don't want your money." "That's good," Elon replied, still on guard. "Because I don't hand out miracles." Lucas's expression didn't change. "Neither do I. I just pass them on." For a moment, Elon wanted to laugh. To walk away. To say something logical, something adult. But instead, he asked. "How?" Lucas looked down, then pulled something from under his hoodie, a small, handmade object. Wires. Beads. Copper coils. Junk, it seemed. But in the center was a tiny, glowing crystal, no bigger than a thumbnail. "I don't know how," he said honestly. "But it starts when people believe it can." Before Elon could speak again, a man bumped into him from behind, muttering a curse. The moment broke. The city returned. When Elon turned back, Lucas was gone. Gone. No footprints. No trace. Like he'd never been there. He looked down at Noah, still silent, still slouched in the chair. But the boy's lips were curved upward. The faintest smile. Elon had not seen that smile in 147 days. What would you do, if a stranger said they could fix what the world called unfixable? That night, Elon lay awake in the hotel suite. Noah was asleep beside him, breathing evenly, toy rocket clutched to his chest. Elon replayed the moment over and over again. His legs still remember. No doctor had said anything like that. Every scan showed damage. Every chart was filled with terms like nerve failure, permanent damage, no prognosis for improvement. But that boy, Lucas, he hadn't used any of those words. He'd looked at Noah like he saw him. Like he heard something nobody else could. Elon got up and walked to the window. Below, the city still moved. Lights blinked, taxis crawled, and people lived their lives without ever knowing how lucky they were. He opened his phone. Searched the news. The social feeds. Nothing on any boy named Lucas. No miracle healer. No street magician. Nothing. Was it real? Was he just desperate? He turned back to Noah, his heart aching. If there was even a chance. Street after street. Park benches. Shelters. Even the vendor who sold him a coffee every morning. Elon Musk, the vendor blinked. Looking for a kid? Name's Lucas. Homeless. Green eyes. But no one knew. No one had seen him. Until the very last corner, near the entrance of the subway, Elon saw something taped to a lamp post. A ripped corner of cardboard. A single word, written in messy, childish ink. Believe. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The world knew him as a visionary, a genius, a billionaire, the man who wanted to build a city on Mars. But Noah only knew him as Dad. And that's who he was now. Not the CEO of Tesla. Not the architect of the future. Just a father. Sitting at the edge of a hotel bed in Midtown Manhattan, watching his son sleep like he was made of glass. Elon Musk had seen the inside of rockets, had built things no one thought possible. He had gambled his fortune, and won. But this was a battle he couldn't outthink, couldn't outbuild. His son couldn't walk. It happened on a warm spring afternoon just outside of Austin. Elon had taken Noah for a weekend trip to test drive a prototype solar-powered ATV. It was supposed to be fun. Just father and son. Dirt trails. Laughs. A rare moment away from screens and labs. They were both smiling when the tire blew. He remembered the sound, the screech of metal, the snapping of bone, the silence afterward. Elon pulled his son from the wreckage with blood on his hands and soil in his teeth. Noah was unconscious, limp, terrifyingly still. The doctors later said the spine had been compressed, nerves damaged. Incomplete paraplegia, they called it. A sterile, technical phrase. But to Elon, it meant his little boy might never run again. No more soccer. No more chasing after birds in the park. No more jumping on the bed like he used to do every morning just to make Elon groan and laugh at the same time. Since the accident, Noah had barely spoken. Therapists said it was selective mutism. A trauma response. Elon called it a disappearing act. The light in Noah's eyes had faded. The boy who once argued about rocket fuel and made up stories about aliens now barely responded when spoken to. His legs, once strong and fast, didn't move. Not even a twitch. Elon remembered kneeling beside the hospital bed in the middle of the night, whispering. "Move one toe, buddy. Just one. That's all I need." Nothing. The nights were the worst. Because in the stillness, Elon could hear the silence between them, a silence so vast it made space feel small. No one blamed Elon. But he blamed himself. He'd built machines that could land themselves on floating barges in the ocean. He'd engineered cars to drive themselves and batteries to power cities. But he couldn't protect his own son on a simple afternoon ride. And that guilt lived in him like rust. Quiet. eating everything slowly. Sometimes he stayed awake long after Noah fell asleep, watching old videos of them together. In one clip, Noah was pretending to be mission control. "Daddy, we have liftoff." Elon had lifted him into the air and spun him around. In another, Noah had built a Lego Mars rover and said, "One day I'll ride one of these for real. And you'll be waiting for me on the red planet." Elon smiled at the memory. Then cried. Because that little boy hadn't spoken in months, not even to say goodnight. To the world, Elon still looked like he was pushing forward. Launches still happened. Press releases went out. Stock prices danced. But behind the scenes, he cancelled meetings, turned down keynotes, and stopped traveling. He stayed in the hospital suite, in therapy rooms, in waiting rooms. Some called it privacy. He called it penance. He wasn't trying to be strong. He was trying to fix something that couldn't be fixed. Every doctor gave him the same hollow cocktail of science and sympathy. There's limited nerve activity. We don't see signs of regeneration. It's too soon to know, but not promising. He started hearing a different voice in his head, Noah's voice. Or at least, the memory of it. "Don't give up, Dad. You never give up." But that was before. Before the chair. Before the silence. Before the look in his son's eyes said, "I don't know how to live like this." Elon had tried experimental therapies. Cutting-edge rehab. Neurostimulators. Stem cells. He'd called researchers from Sweden to Singapore. Nothing worked. So when a barefoot boy on the street whispered, "I can make your son walk again," something deep inside Elon cracked, not because he believed it. But because he wanted to believe it. Because what if? What if the one person who could save Noah wasn't in a lab, but on a sidewalk, living off hope and scraps? That night, as he sat by Noah's bed again, Elon pulled the boy's small foot gently into his lap. He rubbed it softly, like he did every night, even though there was no feeling there. But something was different. Noah's fingers moved. Just slightly. Just once. It could have been a muscle twitch. Or it could have been something else. Elon swallowed hard and whispered. "If you're still in there, buddy, blink." Just once. No response. But he didn't stop hoping. Elon leaned back, hands covering his face. He wasn't thinking about Tesla. Not Mars. Not earnings reports or satellites. He was thinking about Lucas. The boy with no shoes, who said he could do the impossible. Maybe he was crazy. Or maybe, just maybe, he was something else. Noah didn't remember the crash. Not really. What he remembered was light, too much of it. Then weightlessness, like floating in water. Then the sound of his dad's voice breaking into pieces. And then, silence. Not the quiet kind. Not bedtime hush or library silence. This was different. This was the silence inside, like the part of his brain that told his legs to move had been swallowed by shadows. Noah wasn't asleep when people thought he was. He heard the doctors. He heard the word trauma more times than he could count, even though he was good at counting. Really good. He heard Dad whisper, "Please," more than once, usually after he thought Noah was out cold. Noah wasn't cold. He just didn't know how to respond anymore. His body was like a game controller with broken buttons. His legs were there, he could see them, but he couldn't feel them. It was like they belonged to someone else. Before the crash, Noah was a storm. He ran so fast the neighbor's dog barked every time he passed. He leapt from the couch with astronaut shouts and landed like a superhero. He built rockets out of cereal boxes and held press conferences for his stuffed animals. He was going to be the youngest Martian ever. That's what he told his dad. Not the alien kind, he'd explained seriously. The explorer kind. Elon had laughed that night. A real laugh. The kind that warmed the room. "I'll reserve the seat next to mine just for you," he had said. And Noah believed him. After the accident, Noah tried to wake up from what he thought was a dream. In his head, he screamed at his legs. Move. Kick. Twitch. Nothing. The wires were cut. And somewhere in that darkness, something inside him went quiet, like someone had pulled the plug on who he used to be. He remembered the first time he saw himself in the hospital mirror. The chair. The thin legs. The silence. That's when he stopped talking. Because what was the point? His dad didn't say he was scared. But Noah saw it. He saw it in the way Dad tried to smile but forgot to lift his eyebrows. In the way he held Noah's hand just a little too tightly at night, like if he let go, he might lose him again. They didn't talk much anymore. Not because they didn't want to. Just because there weren't words for this. When the boy on the sidewalk spoke, Noah heard it louder than anything else all week. "I can make your son walk again." Nobody had said those words. Not the doctors. Not the therapists. Not even Dad. Just Lucas. And somehow, in that moment, Noah felt seen. It wasn't magic. It wasn't a miracle. It was just someone talking to him like he still existed. And for the first time in months, Noah's fingers moved. Not by accident. Not by twitch. But because something inside him flickered back on. That night, he dreamed. Not of rockets. Not of hospitals. He dreamed of that boy, Lucas, standing in a desert, barefoot, holding light in his hands. Not a flashlight. Not a match. Something that pulsed, like a heartbeat made of stars. In the dream, Lucas whispered. "Your legs remember. You just forgot how to listen." When Noah woke up, his cheeks were wet. He hadn't cried since the crash. If Noah could speak again, he would say, "I'm still here, Dad. I hate the way people look at me now. I'm scared I'll never run again." I want to believe what that boy said. But the words were stuck somewhere between his chest and throat, like trapped birds refusing to fly. So instead, he stared at the ceiling, rocket in hand, and waited for something. The rocket was made of cardboard, red foil, and glue that still smelled weird after all this time. He and Dad made it before the trip, for good luck, Noah had insisted. They named it the Lightning Falcon. Every night since the crash, he held it. It reminded him that there was a version of him before. And maybe, if Lucas was right, there was still a version of him after. Just before sunrise, as Manhattan began to wake up, a strange warmth curled in Noah's toes. He didn't say anything. Didn't gasp. Didn't sit up. But he felt it. The tiniest hum, like his feet were remembering they were alive. It was gone a second later. But it was real. And for the first time in nearly half a year, Noah closed his eyes and whispered inside his mind. "Maybe I'm not broken. Some people knock. Some ring the bell. Lucas did neither. He just appeared." Elon had barely slept. He sat hunched over his laptop in the hotel room, eyes burning from reading through fringe medical journals, neurological recovery case studies, and things he used to call nonsense before Noah's accident. He wasn't looking for answers. He was looking for hope. And then there it was, a shadow in the corner of his vision. Elon turned, startled. There, standing barefoot just inside the suite door, was Lucas. Same torn hoodie. Same sharp green eyes. Same strange, quiet calm. "Elon," the boys said like they were already friends. "You looked like you needed help." Elon stood up slowly. How did you get in here?" he asked, trying not to raise his voice. "There's security." Lucas shrugged. "They didn't see me." "That's not," Elon stopped. Somehow, that answer felt less like a lie, and more like a fact. Noah stirred in bed, but didn't wake. Lucas glanced over at him, then turned back to Elon. It's starting. Elon moved between Lucas and Noah without thinking, the instinct of a father, not a billionaire. I don't know who you are, he said carefully, or what kind of game you're playing, but if this is some stunt. Lucas interrupted, his voice soft but firm. This isn't a game. It's a repair. Of what? Lucas looked at Elon. Really looked. You, he said. Him. The part of both of you that gave up. Elon's jaw tightened. Are you even real? Lucas tilted his head like the question amused him. I'm real enough. Elon narrowed his eyes. You said you could help him walk. I said I could help him remember how. That's the same thing. No, Lucas said gently. It's not. Lucas reached into his hoodie pocket and pulled out the object he'd shown Elon once before. It was still strange. Still crude. Still glowing. Wires. Beads. Metal bits. A marble-sized crystal pulsing with soft, blue light. Elon's logic kicked in. That's a toy. Lucas said nothing. Just held it out like an offering. Elon didn't move. Lucas stepped forward and placed the device gently on the nightstand next to Noah. When he's ready, he said, he'll know what to do. Elon finally snapped. You're not a doctor. You're not a therapist. You're a kid with a science project and... Lucas met his eyes, calm as still water. And you're a man who's run out of people to trust. The words hit harder than Elon expected. Because they were true. Elon sat down heavily on the couch. Where did you come from, Lucas? Lucas didn't answer immediately. He walked to the window, looking out at the rising sun over the city skyline. Then he said, quietly, nowhere you'd believe. Elon ran a hand through his hair. Try me. Lucas smiled, just a little. I've been around people who didn't want to be found. And I've helped people who forgot they could heal. That's all you need to know. Why my son? Elon asked. Lucas finally turned. Because he's ready. And because the world needs people like him to walk again, not just with legs, but with light. Across the room, Noah stirred again. His fingers twitched. This time, they didn't stop. They flexed. Curled. One hand reached out, slow and unsure, until it brushed the device on the nightstand. Elon saw it. Lucas did, too. He's beginning, Lucas whispered. Elon stood, breath held. Noah didn't wake. But his hand stayed on the device. Elon moved forward slowly, kneeling beside the bed. Noah, he said softly. Can you hear me? No response. Just the pulse of that soft blue light, faster now. Like it was sinking to something. Maybe a heartbeat. Maybe a memory. Maybe hope. Wait, Elon said. You're just going to leave. Lucas nodded. He needs time. I'll be back when he's ready. Elon stood up. Why me? Why this family? Lucas smiled faintly, a little sad. Because the universe doesn't pick people based on money or fame. It picks them based on pain, and what they're willing to do with it. He paused at the door. And Elon, he added. Yeah. Next time, don't try to explain it. Just feel it. Then he was gone. The air felt different. Lighter somehow. Like it had been scrubbed clean. Elon sat on the edge of the bed again. He looked at Noah. At the way his hand gripped the strange glowing device. At the flicker of peace on his face. He didn't understand it. Didn't believe it, not really. But for the first time in a long time. He didn't feel afraid. It started with a single toe. Not the whole leg. Not a dramatic jolt. Just a tiny movement in the left foot, a twitch so subtle that Elon thought he imagined it. But he hadn't. Because Noah's fingers tightened around the strange device Lucas had left, and the crystal inside pulsed once, like it felt the movement too. Then again. Elon leaned forward in disbelief. "Noah, was that you?" Still no words. Still no open eyes. But the left foot twitched again. Not a spasm. Not a reflex. A spark. He didn't scream for help. He didn't call the nurse or a doctor. Not yet. Something deep in Elon's gut said, "Don't break this moment." He knelt beside the bed, eyes locked on his son's legs. "Noah, it's Dad. Can you hear me?" Noah's lips moved, just slightly. A whisper. No sound. But movement. Then, slowly, so slowly it made Elon's heart ache, Noah's right hand lifted from the bed and came to rest on his chest. The exact spot where the device had started glowing more brightly. Elon's voice trembled. "You're in there." And for the first time in months, he believed it. Later that morning, the hospital suite was silent again, but everything had changed. Elon sat with his laptop open, dozens of tabs flashing with scientific papers, neural recovery data, experimental tech. He typed non-invasive neurostimulation breakthrough. Then, phantom limb reactivation. Then, cases of spontaneous motor return in pediatric paraplegia. Nothing matched what he'd seen. The science wasn't enough. So, for the first time in years, he typed into a search bar something he'd once rolled his eyes at. Miraculous healing stories. Children. By noon, Noah had moved 3 toes. Not perfectly. Not in rhythm. But with intention. He still hadn't spoken. Still hadn't opened his eyes. But his face was different, less slack, more present. And the glow from Lucas's device was now constant. Soft. Pulsing. Like it was alive. Elon's mind wrestled between logic and longing. He'd built rockets with exact math. His companies ran on algorithms and prototypes and provable models. But this? This was something else. Lucas hadn't used a computer. Or a machine. He used a few scraps, a crystal, and words that didn't belong to any formal field. Yet Noah was changing. And the only variable had been Lucas. That afternoon, Elon gently sat Noah up. He rolled the wheelchair aside and placed a large cushion on the floor. Then, very carefully, he shifted Noah into a seated position with legs outstretched. No resistance. No pain. Just stillness. He waited. 5 minutes passed. Then, the right leg twitched. Just once. Enough to knock over a toy rocket sitting near Noah's foot. Elon felt his breath catch. Then, the left leg moved. Not a twitch. Not a spasm. A bend at the knee. Small. Controlled. Voluntary. Elon didn't cry. Not then. He just sat back and stared at the boy who had been silent, still, locked away. Noah was coming back. Piece by piece. Movement by movement. And with each spark, Elon felt a part of himself come back to life too, the part that had stopped dreaming, stopped hoping. Elon hadn't kept a journal since college. But that night, he opened a blank file and typed. Noah moved today. I don't have an explanation. Just an observation. Lucas was here again. Left that strange object behind. It glows when Noah touches it. And I swear it responds to emotion. Is this science? Magic? Or something in between? All I know is, my son moved. And I don't care if I have to follow a barefoot kid across the world, I'll do it. Because for the first time in 5 months. I believe again. He closed the laptop. Sat back. Looked at Noah. The boy was asleep now, peaceful, the faintest hint of a smile on his lips. Noah dreamed of walking. Not in a crowded hospital or on a treadmill with wires. He dreamed of Mars. Red dust. Low gravity. A horizon that stretched forever. Lucas was there. Standing at the edge of a crater, his hoodie blowing in a breeze that shouldn't have existed. Noah walked to him, legs strong. Steps light. Lucas smiled. You're remembering. Noah looked down. His feet were glowing, like they were made of the same light as the crystal. Am I awake? Lucas shook his head. Not yet. But you're close. Then everything faded into stars. Doctors love evidence. They love scans, charts, and hard data. They love control. Structure. Certainty. So when Elon Musk requested a full neurological assessment for his son, urgently, they didn't question him. They ran the tests. Ran them again. And what they found left them silent. Dr. Karen Lin was the chief neurologist at Manhattan Medical Center. A woman known for her brilliance, her calm under pressure, and her total refusal to entertain anything unscientific. She stood in Elon's suite now, holding a printout of Noah's EMG readings, her brow furrowed like she was reading a foreign language. Mr. Musk, she said carefully, this doesn't make sense. Elon stood by the window, arms crossed. Explain. There's new activity, she said. Electrical signals in both lower limbs. Stronger on the left, but present on the right. That wasn't there last week. So it's improvement. Dr. Lin hesitated. It's impossible. Elon turned to her. But it's real. She sighed. It's unexplainable. There's been no surgery. No new meds. No stimulation therapy. And this, she pointed to the scans, looks like the beginnings of full motor return. So what's the problem? She looked him dead in the eyes. The problem, Mr. Musk, is that this shouldn't be happening. A second doctor stepped forward. Dr. Price, the rehabilitation specialist. I'd like to run a second round of imaging, he said cautiously. Just to verify. Perhaps there was a miscalibration in the previous readings. Elon raised an eyebrow. You think your machines are wrong? We think there might be an anomaly. Elon exhaled sharply. You mean a miracle? The room stiffened. We don't use that word here, Dr. Lin replied. But if you saw this in one of my companies, Elon snapped, you'd call it a breakthrough. With the right data, yes. But this? She pointed toward the nightstand, where the glowing device Saturday, this looks like pseudoscience. This borders on dangerous. Dr. Lin stepped forward. Mr. Musk, I'm going to be blunt. If you're involving your son in experimental technology without FDA clearance, we need to be notified. Immediately. I'm not, Elon replied coolly. There's no tech. There's just, this boy. Lucas. Lucas? Dr. Price frowned. The barefoot boy? Yes. The same one security couldn't trace. The one who just, showed up. That's the one. They exchanged a glance. Mr. Musk, Dr. Lin said slowly, are you okay? Elon laughed. Once. Not happily. I've never been more clear. For 5 months, my son has been silent. Still. Hopeless. Then this boy appears, gives him that device, and Noah starts moving. I don't care if it breaks every rule in your book, it's working. Dr. Lin folded her arms. Correlation doesn't mean causation. No, Elon shot back. But movement means possibility. Dr. Price cleared his throat. We reviewed Noah's case files, he said. All of them. His initial scans. The extent of damage to his spinal cord. He wasn't supposed to recover sensation, let alone motor function. But now. Elon pressed. Now, there are measurable improvements. Rapid ones. Then why the resistance? Dar. Lynn's voice sharpened. Because if word gets out that one of the most high-profile patients in the country is recovering due to an unknown mechanism, every desperate family will chase it. And when it doesn't work for them, they'll blame you. I'm not interested in managing public opinion, Elon said. I'm interested in helping my son walk again. We're asking you to be responsible, Dr. Lynn said. We can't endorse unverified interventions. If something goes wrong. Something already did, Elon snapped. And none of your textbooks helped. Silence. He softened slightly. Look, I'm not saying we throw science away. I'm saying, maybe it doesn't have all the answers. Not this time. Dr. Price looked uneasy. And this boy, Lucas, where is he now? I don't know, Elon admitted. And you trust him? I trust my son, he replied. And I trust what I've seen with my own eyes. Dr. Lynn stepped forward again. Mr. Musk, as Noah's care team, we have a duty to intervene if we believe his health is being jeopardized. If we see continued use of that device without medical clearance, we'll have to report it. Do what you have to, Elon said. But so will I. Dr. Lynn raised an eyebrow. To who? Elon smiled faintly. To every family that needs to know, there might be something else out there. Something that works. She didn't respond. She didn't have to. Because in that moment, Elon had drawn a line. And nothing would be the same after. Lucas stood beneath a tree, looking up at the sky. His feet were bare, still dusty. His hoodie hung loose in the breeze. A man on a bench nearby watched him curiously. You lost, kid. Lucas didn't answer. He just closed his eyes, and smiled faintly. No, he whispered. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. The next time Lucas showed up, it was in the middle of the night. Elon had just finished reviewing the latest scan results from the hospital, each one confirming what he already knew, Noah was improving. But despite the steady progress, something nagged at him, like a whisper in his mind telling him he hadn't yet reached the truth. It was 2:30 a.m. when Elon heard the knock. At first, he thought it was just a dream. But then the sound came again, louder this time, followed by a soft voice. Mr. Musk? It's me. Lucas. Elon sat up in bed, his heart pounding. He rubbed his eyes and swung his legs over the side. The clock on his nightstand blinked back at him, confirming the time. His first instinct was to ignore it. To keep the door locked and pretend like everything was normal. But something told him not to. He stood, his feet moving before his mind could protest. The door opened with a soft creak, revealing the boy standing there in his familiar loose hoodie and barefoot. Lucas, Elon said, trying to sound calm, but his voice gave him away. What are you doing here? Lucas glanced up at him, eyes bright, the same mysterious calm in his expression. I had a feeling you needed me. Elon didn't move, still frozen in the doorway. He was trying to make sense of the situation. After the tension with the doctors, after the confusion and the strange device Lucas had left with Noah, Elon had expected the boy to disappear, to vanish into the night like some kind of urban legend. But here he was again, standing at his door. How did you find us? Elon asked, leaning against the doorframe. Lucas's lips curved into a slight smile. I always know where I'm needed. The word sent a chill down Elon's spine. He felt like he was talking to someone far older than their years. Come in, Elon said after a beat, stepping aside. Lucas walked in without a word, his eyes scanning the room, taking in the surroundings as if they were as familiar to him as his own home. Elon sat back down at his desk, his mind racing. "You've been here before," he finally said, looking at the boy. "But you don't seem like a normal kid. You're not like anyone I've ever met." Lucas tilted his head slightly, a glimmer of amusement in his eyes. "What's normal?" Elon paused. The question made him think. What did it mean to be normal? He had spent his whole life chasing the extraordinary, but now, in the presence of this strange boy, he wondered if he had been wrong all along. "I don't know why you're here," Elon finally said, breaking the silence. "But I need to understand more about you. About why you gave Noah that device and what you know." Lucas didn't flinch. He simply sat down across from Elon, the way a teacher would sit before a student eager for knowledge. "Your son is special," Lucas began. His voice was quiet but full of certainty. "But he's not the only one. There are more." Elon furrowed his brow. "What do you mean?" Lucas leaned forward, the light from the desk lamp casting strange shadows on his face. "People like Noah are chosen. There's a purpose to their suffering. A bigger picture that most can't see. But Noah's not alone. There are others." Elon's mind buzzed with 1,000 questions. "How do you know this?" "Because I'm one of them," Lucas said softly. "I've been where Noah is. I've seen the future that awaits him." Elon's heart raced. The world around him felt as though it was closing in. "I don't understand," Elon whispered. "How can you know all of this? How are you able to heal him? What is this device? What is your role in all of this?" Lucas didn't answer right away. Instead, he stood up and walked over to the corner of the room, picking up a small piece of paper from the desk. He handed it to Elon. It was a drawing, simple but detailed, a diagram of Noah's spinal cord, with arrows and lines marking certain points. Elon's eyes widened as he looked at the drawing. This is Noah's anatomy. "But how do you know this?" "I told you," Lucas said, his tone almost gentle. "I'm connected to him. Connected to all of them." The words hung in the air like an omen. "You're not just a healer," Elon said slowly. "You're part of something bigger. Something that goes beyond anything we understand." Lucas nodded. "Exactly." Elon swallowed hard. The weight of Lucas's words settled in his chest like a heavy stone. His mind raced, trying to piece together what this could all mean. Could Noah be part of something extraordinary? Was he a part of some hidden experiment? And if so, why hadn't Elon known about it before? "You've been watching my son, haven't you?" Elon said suddenly, his voice hardening. "I don't know what you are or where you came from, but you're not just some kid who wandered in here by accident. You've been following Noah's progress for a reason." Lucas didn't flinch. "I've been following you too, Mr. Musk. I've seen what you've done, all the things you've built. But this is bigger than you can imagine. It's bigger than Mars." Elon's breath caught in his throat. "What do you mean?" Lucas leaned in, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's not just about technology. It's about what we can unlock. What we can become when we stop seeing the world through the lens of our limitations." Elon stood up abruptly, his mind whirling with possibilities. "What are you asking me to do?" Lucas's gaze was steady, unwavering. "I'm asking you to trust me. To let me guide Noah, to help him unlock the potential that's always been inside him." For a long moment, Elon said nothing. He looked at the boy, this strange, knowing child who seemed to carry the weight of the world on his shoulders. Then, without warning, Lucas turned toward the door. "Time is running out," he said quietly, before walking into the night without a second glance. The morning after Lucas's sudden disappearance, Elon was left with more questions than answers. It was the first time in his life that he felt like his empire of logic, science, and technology wasn't enough. The certainty that had guided him through the darkest and most uncertain moments of his career was nowhere to be found. For the first time, he felt small. Elon sat at his desk, his fingers drumming absent-mindedly against the wood. His eyes flicked to the device Lucas had left behind, still sitting there like a silent reminder of everything he didn't understand. The night before, the boy's words echoed in his mind like a broken record. I'm connected to him. Connected to all of them. The question burned in his mind. Why Noah? Why his son? As Elon stared at the device, deep in thought, his phone buzzed with a message. It was from his head of security, James. Sir, we need to talk. The boy, Lucas, has vanished. But we traced something strange. Elon's heart skipped a beat. He quickly called James back, his pulse quickening. The last thing he needed right now was more uncertainty. James, what's going on? Elon's voice was tight with tension. Mr. Musk, the boy. We found traces of him. Not where we expected. We thought he'd just disappeared like a ghost, but we were wrong. Elon leaned forward, his grip tightening on the phone. Explain. We've got surveillance footage, James continued. It looks like Lucas was at the hospital, the one your son's been receiving care at. We have him on camera speaking with a man. Someone, significant. Elon's heart clenched. What man? We don't know. But he's not from any of the hospital records. And that's where it gets strange, this man didn't enter through the main entrance. He showed up out of nowhere. Elon felt a cold chill run down his spine. Keep me updated. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Elon arrived at the hospital moments later, his mind racing with possibilities. Could Lucas have been orchestrating something far more elaborate? Was he part of something bigger, perhaps more dangerous than anyone could have imagined? He pushed through the hospital corridors, his thoughts consumed by the revelation. As he approached the security office, his phone buzzed again. It was another message from James. Sir, the man Lucas met with, his identity is classified. We need your authorization to access the full records. Elon hesitated for only a second before replying, get me everything. Once inside the hospital's security room, Elon sat across from Dr. Karen Lin, who had been waiting for him. She wasn't surprised by his arrival, but there was a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. Mr. Musk, she began, I don't know what's going on, but I'm as lost as you are. I know what we're seeing with Noah, the improvement, the unexplained recovery, but Lucas. I've looked into his file. There's nothing there. Elon leaned forward. What do you mean? No records. There's no birth certificate, no family history. It's like he just appeared. And the man he met with last night? His records are locked. No one has access. Elon's mind spun. The questions were multiplying faster than he could keep up with. Who was this boy? What was he really after? You're telling me there's a shadow organization involved? Elon asked, a faint disbelief in his voice. Dr. Lin sighed. I'm telling you there's something here that doesn't add up. I've seen cases where the medical community has tried to push the limits of what's possible, but this goes beyond that. Elon's eyes hardened. I don't care about any shadow organization. I care about one thing, my son's recovery. Dr. Lin met his gaze. So, you're going to trust this boy? Elon stood up abruptly, the weight of the decision before him pressing down on his chest like an anchor. The truth was, he had no choice. Lucas had given Noah hope, something that had seemed impossible only a few days ago. And now, he had to decide whether he would let that hope fade away or fight to uncover the truth. There was no turning back from the path ahead. He walked toward the door. I'm going to follow this through, no matter what it costs. Dr. Lin didn't stop him. But her voice followed him as he turned the handle. Just be careful, Mr. Musk. Sometimes hope is a double-edged sword. Elon paused, considering her words. But in the end, he didn't let them deter him. The stakes were too high. His son's future was too important. As Elon walked through the hospital halls, his mind was focused only on one thing, the truth. He needed to know who Lucas really was, and why he was involved with Noah. The answers would reveal themselves soon enough. In the dim light of his office, Elon took a deep breath, staring out the window as he contemplated his next move. The decision was hauntingly clear: he was going to trust Lucas. Trust that the boy held the key to Noah's healing. But the cost of this trust was still unknown. As the evening wore on, Elon sat in his private office, staring at the quiet streets of Manhattan below. A message buzzed on his phone. It was from an unknown number. Hesitating, he opened it. It was Lucas. "I know what you're thinking. But you'll have to act fast. Time is running out for Noah. We can't do this alone." Elon's finger hovered over the screen. This was it. The moment of decision. He typed back, "What do you need from me?" The reply was simple, direct. "Everything." Elon hit send, then set the phone down. In that instant, he knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The next morning, Elon awoke with a heavy heart. He had made the decision. The text from Lucas echoed in his mind, "Everything." It was a single word, but it carried so much weight. What did Lucas need from him? What was he asking him to sacrifice, and for what? Elon rubbed his eyes and looked at the clock. 6 a.m. His mind was already racing with questions, but there was no turning back now. He couldn't ignore what was happening: the extraordinary recovery Noah had experienced, the strange connection to the boy Lucas, and now, the dangerous secrecy surrounding it all. By 8 a.m., Elon was in his office, a pile of files spread across his desk. He had spent the last few hours working through his options, weighing the risks against the potential rewards. He had to get answers. He glanced at the security footage James had sent him the night before. The man Lucas had met with, the one whose identity was classified, hadn't been caught on any other cameras. But the recording from that night told a different story. It showed a meeting that seemed orchestrated, like some secret exchange that was meant to happen. Lucas had been waiting for someone. But who? Elon exhaled slowly. Whatever was happening, it was bigger than him, bigger than Tesla, SpaceX, even his son's recovery. It was something that had the potential to change the world. With a sigh, he stood up and made a call. "James, get the car ready. I'm heading to the lab." Elon arrived at the lab an hour later, where Lucas was waiting for him. The boy stood by a large, silver table, his hands resting lightly on the edge. The device Lucas had left with Noah was now on the table, and Elon could see that it had been modified in some way. "I'm ready," Elon said, walking toward him. "Tell me what I need to do." Lucas didn't respond immediately. His gaze was fixed on the device, and for a moment, Elon thought he saw a flicker of something in his eyes, a quiet, almost somber understanding of what was to come. Finally, Lucas spoke. "We need to activate it. You need to trust me, Mr. Musk. This device isn't just technology. It's the beginning of a new kind of science. One that bridges the gap between what's known and what's possible." Elon nodded, his mind swirling. A new kind of science. It sounded almost like a dream, but the evidence in front of him was undeniable. "Why my son? Why does Noah need this?" Elon asked, his voice steady, though the weight of the question hung heavy in the air. Lucas took a deep breath. "Noah is special. He's the key to something bigger. The people you've built your empire for, they have no idea what's coming. This technology, this experiment, it's not just about healing him. It's about unlocking a new frontier of human potential." Lucas led Elon over to a large machine in the center of the room, its sleek, metallic surface reflecting the bright lights above. The machine was complex, wires, monitors, and screens that Elon didn't recognize. It looked like something out of a science fiction film. "This is it," Lucas said, stepping aside to allow Elon a closer look. "This is where the experiment begins. Noah will be the first of many." Elon stood there for a long moment, absorbing what Lucas had said. He didn't know what was real anymore, or what the boy was trying to get him to do. "But why Noah?" Elon asked again, his voice tinged with disbelief. "Why does he have to be the one? There's no way he's the only candidate for this." Lucas paused, turning to face him. "Noah is a catalyst. He's the starting point for the change we're about to bring about." Elon's mind spun. A catalyst? For what? And what did Lucas mean by the change? Was he talking about a technological leap, or something else entirely? Elon knew he couldn't back out now. The device on the table, modified and ready for activation, could potentially unlock something far greater than anything he had ever imagined. There was no turning back, and the stakes were as high as they had ever been in his life. "Let's do it," Elon said, his voice firm. Lucas nodded, reaching toward the device. As he pressed a few buttons, a soft hum filled the room. The machine began to glow, its lights flickering to life in rhythmic pulses. "Noah's condition is stable. The technology will interact with his body, accelerating his recovery and unlocking something deeper inside him," Lucas explained, his eyes watching the machine carefully. Elon watched the boy intently, trying to piece together the truth behind the experiment. What exactly was Lucas doing to Noah? What was this deeper recovery that he had mentioned? Before he could voice his concerns, Lucas continued. "It's not just about healing him physically. It's about enhancing the mind, the spirit. The process will accelerate his neural regeneration, enabling him to access cognitive abilities that most people can't even imagine." As the machine powered up, a soft pulse of energy emanated from it, and Elon watched in awe as the glow enveloped Noah's body. The monitors around them flickered as the readings began to spike. For the first time in days, Elon felt a sense of hope, the kind that had eluded him for so long. But as the minutes passed, an unease began to settle deep in his chest. The pulses grew stronger, the machine's hum more intense. It was working, but Elon couldn't shake the feeling that there was something hidden beneath the surface, something dangerous. Suddenly, a loud beep echoed through the room. The monitors flashed red. "Lucas, what's happening?" Elon demanded, rushing toward the machine. Lucas's face turned pale as he quickly worked to adjust the controls. "I didn't anticipate this," he muttered. "The energy levels, they're off the charts." Elon's heart began to race. "What did you do to my son?" "I told you," Lucas said, his voice strained. "This is the beginning. We're unlocking his potential, but we need to control it." The room seemed to close in around them as the machine hummed louder. Elon couldn't stop the panic from rising in his chest. "Control it? How?" he asked, his voice cracking. Lucas's eyes widened as he turned toward Elon. "We can't stop it now. Not until we see what happens next. Sometimes, the path to greatness isn't straight. It's twisted, dangerous, and full of unexpected consequences. And once you open the door to the unknown, you can never predict what's waiting on the other side." Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The beeping from the machine grew louder, a high-pitched sound that reverberated through the lab. Elon stood frozen, his mind racing. This wasn't part of the plan. The energy levels fluctuated wildly on the monitors, climbing to heights that seemed physically impossible. What did Lucas do? He moved closer to the machine, his heart hammering in his chest. Noah's body, lying on the bed, twitched, his fingers curling into fists, then releasing. His breathing became shallow and rapid, the rate quickening far beyond what was normal for someone in his condition. "Elon," you need to trust me." Lucas's voice was a strained whisper, his hands desperately pressing buttons on the control panel. But his eyes betrayed him, there was fear in them now, something Elon had never seen from the boy before. "I trusted you," Elon snapped, unable to mask the panic in his voice. "You told me this would help him. But what's happening now?" Lucas glanced at him, his eyes wide with concern. It's accelerating faster than expected. His neural activity is spiking, and the physical recovery, it's moving too quickly." The words hit Elon like a punch to the gut. Too quickly. Elon's mind raced. Was the experiment working, or had they just crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed? The machine hummed loudly, its lights flickering erratically. The energy readings on the screen were climbing, the numbers flashing red. This wasn't just a healing process anymore, it was something else entirely. Noah's body jerked again, and his eyes snapped open. For a moment, his pupils were dilated, his face twisted in confusion and fear. He looked around the room, his gaze falling on Lucas first, then Elon. "Dad?" Noah's voice was barely audible, strained. What's happening?" Elon rushed to his son's side, his hand shaking as he gently touched Noah's arm. "Noah. It's okay, son. You're okay. Just breathe." Noah's chest rose and fell erratically. His eyes were wide, but there was something different in them now, a sharpness that Elon had never seen before. He glanced at Lucas, who was now frantically typing commands into the machine's interface. "You have to stop it," Elon demanded. "He's not ready. He can't handle this." "I can't," Lucas replied, his voice shaking. It's too late. The process is irreversible. We have to finish it." Elon's blood ran cold. "What do you mean, finish it? What's happening to him?" Lucas turned toward Elon, his face pale and drawn. "His recovery isn't just physical anymore. The neural acceleration, it's making him access abilities far beyond what anyone should have. The machine is unlocking pathways in his brain that no one has ever accessed before." Noah's breathing became faster, more erratic. His body began to tremble. It was as if every cell in his body was trying to keep up with the accelerated pace of the experiment. But his mind, it was different. There was a wildness in his eyes now, an intensity that frightened Elon more than he cared to admit. "Dad," Noah whispered again, his voice distant. It's too much. I can't control it." The boy's hands gripped the sides of the bed tightly, his knuckles turning white. His body began to shake as though he were being flooded with a surge of energy. The machines monitoring him beeped loudly, their readings now off the charts. "Noah," Elon said urgently, placing both hands on his son's shoulders. "You have to fight it. You can control this." But Noah wasn't listening. His eyes were wide, filled with confusion and fear. His body arched off the bed in a way that defied the normal limits of human movement. The force of it sent a shockwave through the room, causing the lights to flicker. Then, in an instant, Noah screamed. The sound was guttural and raw, echoing through the lab like a warning. Elon stepped back, his heart pounding. The boy was no longer his son. This wasn't Noah anymore. Whatever the machine had done to him, it had crossed a line. It was as if the boy's mind was no longer his own. The experiment had unlocked something that had no place in the natural world. Lucas turned from the machine, his face drawn with fear and exhaustion. "This is what I was talking about, Elon. This is what happens when you push the limits of human potential. The mind, it can't process it all at once. It's too much for him. Then stop it." Elon shouted, his voice cracking with desperation. "You've made him into something he isn't." Lucas shook his head slowly. "I didn't do this to him. I gave him a chance to evolve beyond human limitations. But we're not ready for what comes next. No one is. The boy's words hit Elon like a ton of bricks. He had allowed Lucas to lead him into this uncharted territory, to believe that this experiment could be the answer to Noah's suffering. But now, in the face of the boy's uncontrolled abilities, Elon realized the terrible truth. What if they had gone too far? Noah's convulsions began to slow, but his body was still tense, rigid with the unprocessed flood of information coursing through his brain. His eyes locked onto Elon's, a look of helplessness now clear in their depths. "I can't hold it back anymore," Noah gasped, his voice strained. The energy levels on the monitors were still skyrocketing, but now there was a strange silence in the room. The hum of the machine had quieted, its lights dimming slightly as though it, too, were struggling to keep up with the chaos it had created. Lucas stepped forward, his hand trembling as he tried to adjust the machine again. "I need to stabilize him," he said. "But it's going to take time. If we don't act quickly." "What?" Elon demanded, his voice tight with fear. "What happens if we don't act?" "If we don't stop the acceleration," Lucas said, barely able to meet Elon's gaze, "Noah's brain could burn out. His body is already pushing beyond human capacity. It's dangerous." Elon's mind was racing. His son was in danger. No, his son was being torn apart by the very experiment that was supposed to save him. He had trusted Lucas. He had trusted the boy's promise of hope. But now, the truth was clear. They had crossed a line that should never have been crossed. "I need to fix this," Elon said, his voice barely above a whisper. But even as he spoke, he knew that the road ahead would be long, and filled with unimaginable risks. The minutes stretched into hours as Elon stared at his son, helpless and full of dread. The laboratory, once a place of innovation and possibilities, had transformed into a room filled with cold, sterile silence. Noah lay on the bed, his body still tense, as if fighting something unseen, while Lucas worked feverishly at the controls of the machine. Elon paced back and forth, his thoughts a blur. Every instinct in his body screamed at him to stop this, to undo whatever had been done. But the data on the monitors couldn't lie, Noah was too far gone. Whatever the machine had unlocked, it was beyond their control now. He had trusted Lucas. He had trusted the boy who had seemed so sure of himself. And yet, in this moment of overwhelming uncertainty, Elon felt more alone than he had ever felt in his life. "Elon, we need to stabilize him," Lucas said, his voice tight with panic. "The neural pathways are firing at an intensity I've never seen before. If we don't intervene now, his brain could short-circuit." Elon didn't know whether to be angry or terrified. "I trusted you," he growled. "This was supposed to help him. And now you're telling me you can't stop it?" Lucas's face went pale. "I never imagined it would go this far. We need something stronger, something that can counteract the damage we've done." "What kind of countermeasure?" Elon demanded, grabbing the boy by the shoulders. "You've already crossed a line. Do you have any idea what we're dealing with here? My son is dying, and you're still talking about experiments." Lucas's gaze dropped to the floor. He wasn't avoiding Elon's anger, but the boy's silence spoke volumes. He had no answers, no quick fixes. "No," Lucas said after a long pause. "I don't have the answers. But there's one place we can go, one person who might be able to help." Elon's pulse quickened. "Who?" "His name is Dr. Richter. He's an expert in neural interfacing and experimental technology," Lucas explained. "He's been working on projects that could reverse neural overload like this. If anyone can help, it's him." Elon stood motionless, the weight of the situation pressing down on him. He couldn't afford to lose Noah, not now. Not after everything they'd been through. But to trust a stranger, to gamble on an untested solution, it felt like he was standing on the edge of a cliff, and the only way down was to jump. "I'll go," Elon said, his voice firm, though the fear clawed at his insides. "We'll find this Dr. Richter. I don't care what it takes, I'll do whatever I have to." Lucas nodded, his eyes filled with a mixture of guilt and determination. I'll go with you. I know where to find him, but we'll have to move fast. The longer Noah's condition goes untreated, the worse it'll get. With no time to waste, Elon rushed to gather the necessary resources. He called his trusted team to alert them, ensuring that everything at Tesla and SpaceX would be handled in his absence. The work on the new projects could wait, his son's life couldn't. He gave one last, lingering look at Noah. The boy's eyes were half closed now, as if he were trapped in some kind of dream. His face was pale, his breath shallow, but there was still a flicker of recognition when their gazes met. I'll fix this, son, Elon whispered, his voice thick with emotion. I won't let you down. By late afternoon, Elon and Lucas were on their way, speeding toward the remote location where Dr. Richter supposedly lived and worked. The landscape outside the car was a blur of mountains and dense forests, far removed from the world Elon was used to. It felt like a different reality, one that he was being dragged into against his will. Lucas had explained that Dr. Richter had been experimenting with neural augmentations for years, but the man was notorious for keeping to the shadows. Most of his work was classified, and his research was considered controversial at best. Still, in the face of Noah's rapidly deteriorating condition, Elon had no choice but to place his trust in this enigmatic scientist. The journey was tense, filled with silence and the occasional nervous glance between the two men. Every passing minute felt like another step toward the unknown. Elon couldn't shake the feeling that they were being pulled further into a web of secrecy and danger, and he wasn't sure if he could even trust Lucas anymore. How much did the boy really know? Was he just a pawn in a much larger game? But there was no turning back now. After hours of driving, they finally arrived at the secluded facility that Lucas had promised would hold the answers. The building was hidden deep within the forest, nestled between thick trees that seemed to guard it like a fortress. The only indication of life was the dim light glowing from the windows. Elon stepped out of the car, feeling the weight of the moment settle heavily on his shoulders. He was about to meet a man whose research might be the key to saving his son, but he had no idea what kind of person Dr. Richter was, or what he would demand in return for his help. Stay close, Lucas said, his voice tense. Dr. Richter doesn't trust anyone easily. He's eccentric. Elon nodded, trying to focus on the task at hand. There was no room for fear, no room for hesitation. His son's life was at stake, and he would do anything to make sure Noah walked out of this facility alive. The door creaked open as they approached, revealing a narrow hallway. Inside, the scent of chemicals and metal lingered in the air. The facility was a far cry from the polished labs Elon was used to. It was gritty, makeshift, and filled with a sense of urgency. Dr. Richter was waiting for them at the end of the hallway. A tall man in his mid-40s, his hair wild and unkempt, his eyes sharp and calculating. He didn't smile when he saw them, didn't offer a greeting. He simply nodded and gestured for them to follow him. I assume you have a good reason for being here, Mr. Musk, he said, his voice low and deliberate. And I assume it's not because you enjoy taking risks. Elon felt a surge of frustration. I'm not here to discuss my reasons, Dr. Richter. My son is dying, and I need your help. Dr. Richter's eyes narrowed as he studied Elon for a long moment, almost as though he were assessing his worth. And why would I help you? He asked coolly. What's in it for me? Elon's patience was running thin. You'll get nothing if you don't help me. My son is the only thing that matters right now. The silence stretched between them before Richter spoke again. Fine. I'll help. But you need to understand something. This isn't a simple fix. What you're dealing with is beyond what you can comprehend. You're asking me to reverse an irreversible process. And if I fail? If you fail, Elon cut in, you won't have to worry about that. You'll never see us again. Richter didn't flinch. Understood. Follow me. The sterile, flickering lights of Dr. Richter's underground lab cast long shadows on the cold, concrete floor. Elon followed the scientist through narrow corridors lined with medical equipment, their footsteps echoing in the silence. Every instinct in his body screamed for him to turn back, to run, but he held his ground. For Noah, he would do anything. Dr. Richter stopped in front of a large, metallic door and punched in a series of numbers on the keypad. The door slid open with a hiss, revealing a stark, white room. In the center of the room was a high-tech bed, surrounded by complex machines. Monitors and tubes connected to a series of chairs lined the walls. "This is where I do my work," Dr. Richter said coolly, stepping aside to let Elon enter. "It's not pretty, but it's effective. What's about to happen is not something that can be undone. Are you sure you want to proceed?" Elon didn't hesitate. "I don't care what it takes. I need my son to walk again." Richter gave him a curt nod and motioned to the bed. "Then you understand the risks. His mind, his body. They are in uncharted territory. I can't promise this will work, Musk. But I'll try." Noah lay on the bed, his body still as tense as a wire, his breathing shallow. His eyes fluttered open when he heard Elon's voice. He looked at his father, and for a moment, the familiar, boyish innocence was still there. But then, a flicker of something deeper, something far more terrifying, shone in his eyes. The neural augmentation had begun to take root. "Dad, is this really going to work?" Noah whispered, his voice strained, as if speaking took all his energy. Elon sat beside him, his hand resting gently on Noah's. "We're going to make it work, son. Trust me." Noah nodded weakly but didn't seem entirely convinced. His gaze flicked to Dr. Richter, who was preparing the equipment, a calm efficiency in his every movement. Richter turned to Elon. "I'll begin by stabilizing the neural pathways. The influx of information is far too great for him to process right now. If I can redirect the neural signals and slow down the acceleration, we might have a chance. But if you don't?" Elon asked, his voice thick with dread. "If we don't," Richter said matter-of-factly, "he'll burn out. His brain will overload. The effects will be irreversible." Elon closed his eyes for a moment, bracing himself for the worst. But he couldn't turn away. This was the only hope he had. As Dr. Richter connected the electrodes to Noah's temples, Elon watched closely. The boy's body remained stiff, every muscle taut with tension, as though he were locked in a silent battle with his own mind. The machines around them hummed and clicked, a symphony of technology designed to push the boundaries of what was possible. Noah's breath caught in his throat, and for a brief moment, Elon thought his son was slipping away. But then, the boy's fingers twitched, and a single tear slid down his cheek. "It hurts, Dad," Noah gasped, his voice barely audible. "I know, son. I know," Elon whispered, his heart breaking. "But you're not alone. I'm right here." Dr. Richter's hands flew over the control panel, adjusting settings, inputting commands. "This is critical. We need to stabilize his neural synapses before the overload progresses any further. If we don't, he'll lose control completely." Noah's eyes squeezed shut, and his body jerked violently. Elon gripped his son's hand tighter, willing him to hold on, to keep fighting. The monitors began to beep more rapidly, indicating that the neural stimulation was reaching a peak. The lights in the room flickered again. "I can't take it anymore," Noah cried out, his voice a mixture of fear and pain. Elon's heart shattered. He had never felt so powerless in his life. "You can, Noah. You're stronger than this. You've always been strong." But Noah wasn't listening. His body convulsed again, the neural overload causing his muscles to spasm uncontrollably. For a moment, it seemed as though the procedure was failing. The machines whined and beeped as if protesting the force of the energy being unleashed. Dr. Richter didn't flinch. He simply pressed on, adjusting the equipment, and muttering to himself. "I need to direct the energy, recalibrate the neural pathways, now. There was a pause, one long, terrifying moment of silence where everything seemed to hang in the balance. Elon's breath caught in his throat as he watched Noah's face twist in agony. But then, just as he thought things were about to spiral out of control, the boy's body stilled. The monitors began to steady. The chaotic reading started to smooth out. Noah's breathing became slower, deeper. His fingers relaxed, his grip loosening around Elon's hand. "Elon, it's working," Dr. Richter said quietly, his voice a mix of relief and exhaustion. "We've stabilized him. For now." Noah's eyes fluttered open once again, but this time, there was no wild fear in them. Instead, there was something quieter, something more controlled. "Dad?" Noah's voice was faint, but there was a hint of curiosity in it now. "What happened?" I feel different." Elon leaned forward, brushing a lock of hair from his son's forehead. "You're going to be okay, Noah. We're going to get through this." Noah gave a weak nod, though the confusion in his eyes was still there. He tried to sit up, but his body was too weak from the strain of the procedure. Elon quickly helped him, supporting him as he slowly lifted into a sitting position. "How do you feel?" Elon asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know," Noah replied, his voice laced with uncertainty. I'm not sure where I am anymore. My head is clear, but I can't make sense of it all." Dr. Richter stepped forward, observing the boy's recovery with interest. "The neural augmentation is still working. His brain has re-established new pathways, but it's going to take time for him to adapt. The real question is whether or not his body can handle this new level of function." Elon clenched his fists. "So, what does that mean? Will he walk again?" Richter's gaze shifted to Noah, then back to Elon. "It means his body has the potential to heal. But it will be a slow process. His brain is adapting at an unprecedented rate, and his muscles will need time to catch up." Elon's heart soared at the words, but his mind remained cautious. The last few days had taught him one brutal truth: nothing was certain anymore. Every step forward felt like walking on a razor's edge. Elon took a deep breath and placed his hand on Noah's shoulder. "No matter what happens next, we'll get through this together. I won't stop until you're walking again. I promise you that." Noah managed a weak smile, but the doubt was still in his eyes. "Thanks, Dad." As Elon watched Dr. Richter adjust the machines one last time, he felt the weight of everything that had happened pressing down on him. But one thing was clear: this wasn't the end. This was just the beginning. The sterile hum of the machines in Dr. Richter's lab was a constant reminder of the weight they were all carrying. Elon sat next to Noah's bed, watching as his son's breathing slowly steadied. The boy had been unconscious for nearly 20 hours after the procedure, and now, as the haze began to clear from his mind, Elon couldn't help but wonder if the battle was truly over, or just beginning. Noah stirred, his eyelids fluttering open. His gaze was unfocused at first, but as he blinked, his eyes met Elon's, and there was a flicker of recognition. "Dad?" Noah's voice was hoarse, almost as if he were waking from a long, bad dream. Elon leaned in, brushing the damp hair from Noah's forehead. "Hey, son. How are you feeling?" Noah tried to sit up, but his body was still too weak. He winced and fell back against the pillow. "I feel strange. But I can think more clearly, like everything is sharper now." Elon's heart leapt at the words, but something nagged at the back of his mind. Noah's improvement was too fast, too complete. And then there was the lingering question: had they really solved the problem, or were they just delaying the inevitable? Noah's eyes darted around the room, landing on the machines, then back to Dr. Richter. The scientist was busy at his console, studying the data from the procedure. "Dr. Richter," Noah rasped, "what exactly did you do to me?" "I don't remember much, but I know something's changed." Dr. Richter's expression was unreadable. He didn't immediately answer, continuing to adjust the monitors. Your brain is adapting to the neural pathways we've established. It's a process. No, Noah interrupted, his voice firm despite the weakness in his body. I get that. But you've been augmenting brains for years, right? Why does it feel like there's something more to this? Elon could see the unease in Dr. Richter's face. The scientist paused and glanced at Elon, as if considering how much to reveal. Finally, he sighed and turned to face both of them. You're right to question this, Richter said, his voice lowering. What I did for Noah wasn't entirely within the scope of our original plan. Elon's pulse quickened. What do you mean? What did you do to him? Dr. Richter sat down at the edge of the bed, folding his hands in front of him. When I started working with neural augmentation, I had a hypothesis that human brains could be enhanced, not just restored, but actually elevated to new levels of cognition and control. What I've been experimenting with is a process that doesn't just fix broken pathways, it rewires the brain completely. Elon's stomach churned. You mean you didn't just help him? You've been experimenting on him? You've played God with his mind? Richter's eyes flickered with guilt, but he remained calm. I wasn't sure if it would work. I didn't know how his body would respond. But your son, he's different. He's a special case. We were able to push the neural stimulation to a level that no one else has ever attempted. Noah's brain, it's adapting faster than expected. Elon felt his anger building. So, my son is your experiment. That's what this is all about. You're treating his life like it's some sort of test subject. No, that's not what I meant, Dr. Richter protested, standing up. You have to understand, Elon, this is the future. The path we're on, it's about more than fixing one person. It's about rewriting what it means to be human. Noah's voice broke through their tension. But what does that mean for me, Dr. Richter? Am I still, me? The question hung in the air, heavy with the weight of its implications. Elon looked at his son, who was trying to process the news. He could see the fear in Noah's eyes now, the uncertainty that came with knowing your very identity was being altered. Dr. Richter's face softened. Noah, you're still you. But you might not be the same in a few days. You're experiencing an accelerated neural reorganization. Your mind is being upgraded, rewired to function at a higher level. This is uncharted territory. Elon stepped forward, feeling the ground beneath him shift. And what happens when the rewiring goes too far? What happens if you break him? Is this worth it? The lab grew quiet as Richter's gaze shifted to the monitor, his fingers tracing the patterns on the screen. He hesitated for a long moment before answering. Sometimes, evolution demands a sacrifice. Elon's mind raced, the weight of Dr. Richter's words sinking in. So you're telling me you don't know what could happen next? You're just guessing. Not exactly, Dr. Richter replied carefully. The neural pathways I've re-engineered in Noah's brain are designed to optimize his motor functions, his cognitive abilities. But there's a risk. The more we push the brain, the more fragile it becomes. If the balance shifts too much, his body might not be able to handle it. His mind might collapse under the strain. Elon's thoughts spun wildly. So, you're telling me that even if Noah seems better now, he's still at risk of, what? Of dying? Richter nodded slowly. Yes. But if you're asking whether it was worth the risk to try, I believe it is. The human brain has potential we've only begun to scratch the surface of. I believe Noah could be the key to unlocking that potential for everyone. Elon's chest tightened as he absorbed the implications. His son was a test subject, not just for his own survival, but for some grand, untested theory about the future of humanity. The weight of the decision was crushing. Is that what this is about? Elon asked, his voice low and filled with incredulity. You're using my son as some sort of stepping stone. No, that's not it at all, Richter said quickly, but there was a nervousness in his voice. I didn't anticipate the results we've seen so far. I've never worked on a subject like Noah. His brain is responding in ways I can't explain, and I don't know if that's a blessing or a curse. Elon turned to Noah, who was still processing the information, his face pale. The boy's brow furrowed in confusion and fear. "Dad, what do I do now?" he asked, his voice small and uncertain. "I don't know if I want to be the key to something else. I just want to walk again." Elon swallowed hard, fighting to hold back the emotion that threatened to overwhelm him. "We're going to get through this, Noah. I promise. We'll find a way, whatever it takes. You're my son, and that's all that matters." Noah gave him a weak smile. "I believe you, Dad." But deep inside, Elon knew this promise might be the last one he could make to his son that wasn't laced with uncertainty. The days that followed the procedure felt like a blur. Elon's mind was consumed with worry, his thoughts constantly oscillating between hope and fear. While Noah's body remained largely immobile, his mind seemed to be undergoing a transformation beyond anything they had expected. Dr. Richter had been monitoring the neural pathways constantly, but even the scientist seemed troubled by what he saw. "Noah's responses are beyond our projections," Dr. Richter said one morning, his voice tinged with disbelief as he studied the data. "His brain is adapting much faster than we anticipated." Elon stood by, his arms crossed, trying to keep his emotions in check. "What does that mean? Is he getting better?" Richter looked up, his expression unreadable. "Better? I don't know. His motor functions are improving, yes, but his cognitive abilities, they're changing in ways I didn't foresee. His reflexes, his sensory perception, his mental acuity, they're all at superhuman levels." Elon took a sharp breath. "What does that mean for him? For us?" Richter tapped a few more keys on his console, pulling up more data. "It's like, the augmentation is opening pathways that shouldn't be opened. I don't think his body can fully process this kind of change. His mind is growing, but his body is still struggling to catch up." At the lab's outskirts, Noah sat in a chair, his hands resting on his lap, staring blankly at the wall. Elon had seen his son in pain before, both physically and emotionally, but today, Noah's expression seemed more distant, almost alien. There was a coldness to him now, a sharpness in his gaze that hadn't been there before. "Dad," Noah's voice interrupted Elon's thoughts. "I feel strange. It's like there's something inside of me that's waking up, but it's not me. It's something else." Elon approached him, his heart pounding. "What do you mean, son? Are you in pain?" Noah shook his head, but the confusion in his eyes was undeniable. "It's like there's a fire in my brain. It's burning, but not in a bad way. It's just, a lot. I don't know how to control it." Elon could see his son's unease, and a cold realization crept over him. It wasn't just the physical changes Noah was experiencing, something more profound was happening. Noah was becoming someone different. Later that evening, as Elon sat beside Noah, the boy's body suddenly jolted upright. His hands trembled, and he gasped for breath as though he were fighting an invisible force. The room seemed to shrink as the tension in the air thickened. Elon reached out instinctively, but Noah held up a hand, signaling for him to stop. "No, Dad. You have to stay back." Noah's voice was strained, his eyes wide with something resembling fear, or maybe wonder. "I can feel it. It's inside me. I can hear it. Everything is so loud." Elon felt the hairs on the back of his neck stand up as the air around them seemed to shift. The room pulsed with a strange energy, and for a moment, it was as if time itself had stopped. Noah's body began to shake violently. His hands clenched into fists, and his teeth ground together. "I can hear it, it's talking to me," he gasped. Elon's heart skipped a beat. "Noah, what's happening? What do you hear?" "I don't know, but it's telling me to listen. It's telling me to use it." Before Elon could react, the room seemed to warp. The monitors around them began to blink erratically, the screens flickering with static as Noah's mind seemed to reach a boiling point. And then, it happened. In an instant, the air around them seemed to charge with electricity. The temperature dropped, and a low hum filled the room. With a sudden motion, Noah slammed his fist onto the table in front of him. The force was so strong that the table cracked down the center, splintering into pieces. Elon froze, staring at the destruction. His son's strength had increased, his movements were unnervingly fast, and his control over his own body was far beyond normal human limits. Dr. Richter rushed into the room, his eyes wide with shock as he assessed the damage. "Noah, you need to control yourself. The neural pathways are unstable. This is dangerous." Noah didn't respond. His eyes were wide with a mix of fear and awe, his breathing ragged as if he couldn't quite believe what was happening to him. I don't know how this feels, but it's like I can't stop it. It's like I have all this power, and I don't know what to do with it." Elon stepped forward, his voice low but urgent. "Noah, listen to me. You need to focus. You need to calm down. You can't let it control you." But Noah's expression was distant. His gaze flickered to Elon, but it was as if he were seeing someone else, something else. The transformation was happening too quickly, and Elon couldn't keep up with it. Richter moved to Noah's side, placing a hand on his shoulder, but the boy flinched away, his entire body now vibrating with unspent energy. This isn't supposed to happen. His mind was meant to be enhanced, not overwhelmed. I was hoping for an evolution of function, not a mutagenic shift. The term hit Elon like a punch to the gut. Mutagenic. That meant something was changing in Noah's DNA, not just his brain. The neural augmentation wasn't just enhancing his mental capabilities, it was altering him on a cellular level, reshaping him into something new, something other. Noah's body spasmed once more, and Elon quickly moved forward, pulling him into an embrace. "Son, please. I need you to listen to me. We're going to fix this. Just stay with me." But Noah's eyes, those eyes that had always been full of hope and curiosity, were now empty. They had lost the spark of the boy Elon once knew. And in its place was something darker, something powerful. "No, Dad. I can't go back. Not now. I need this." Noah's voice was raw, tinged with desperation. "I'm stronger than I've ever been. I can feel it. I have to use it. Dar." Richter's face was pale, his hands trembling. "This is exactly what I was afraid of. If he doesn't regain control, if this power consumes him." Elon's heart clenched. He had known this was a risk, the procedure, the augmentation, the promise of a cure, but never had he imagined the cost would be so high. The transformation was accelerating faster than anyone could have predicted. "Noah," Elon said quietly, his voice breaking, "please. You don't have to do this. You're still you. I need you to come back to me." For a moment, Noah's expression softened, and he seemed to struggle against the overwhelming force inside him. "Dad, I don't know how much longer I can hold on. This power, it feels like it's tearing me apart." Elon's breath caught in his throat. He didn't know if he could fix this, if there was even a way to undo what had been done. But one thing was certain, his son was no longer just a boy. He was something else, something new. And Elon was running out of time to save him. The cold, metallic scent of the lab filled Elon's nostrils as he stared at his son, his once innocent, hopeful son, now teetering on the edge of something beyond human comprehension. The transformation Noah had undergone was not just physical. It was mental. And it was terrifying. Noah stood motionless in the center of the room, his chest rising and falling rapidly. His once youthful face was now taut with an otherworldly intensity. His eyes, once warm and familiar, were now cold and distant, like windows into a mind struggling to hold on to its humanity. Elon took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the decision pressing on him more than ever. He had trusted Dr. Richter, put his faith in the scientist's promises of progress, of healing. But now, those promises seemed to have led his son down a path that no one, not even Richter, had expected. "Dad," Noah's voice was almost a growl, strained with an intensity that sent a shiver down Elon's spine. "You don't understand. This power, it's not just something inside me. It's me. This is who I'm meant to be." Elon's throat tightened. "No, son, this isn't who you are. You're my son, the same person you've always been. You don't need this power. You're enough as you are." But Noah's gaze hardened, and a cold smile tugged at the corners of his lips. "I don't think you get it, Dad. I don't need you to protect me anymore. I am this power. And it feels amazing." The words sliced through Elon's heart. This wasn't his son speaking anymore. Or maybe it was, but it was a version of Noah that had been warped by the augmentation, twisted by the force of the power that surged within him. The boy he had known was slipping away. "Noah," Elon said, his voice breaking with desperation. "Listen to me. I'm not asking you to be something else. I'm asking you to be yourself again." The words hung in the air, heavy and fraught with emotion. Elon's eyes burned with unshed tears as he stepped closer, extending a hand toward his son. "You're still my son. Please, don't let this thing inside you take you from me." But Noah stepped back, shaking his head. "It's too late for that, Dad. I've already become something more." Elon felt his heart shatter. It was like watching his son drown in an ocean of power, unable to save him. He had pushed so hard for this, thinking it would be the key to Noah's future. But now, in the face of the results, he wasn't sure what future remained for his son. Dr. Richter had been silent in the corner of the room, his gaze flicking nervously between Elon and Noah. The scientist had no answers, only uncertainty. The data was impossible to predict, and Noah's condition was deteriorating faster than anyone had imagined. "Elon, we're losing him," Richter said quietly, his voice filled with a rare tremor. "The neural augmentation has pushed him too far. If we don't intervene now, there won't be anything left of him to save." Elon turned to face the scientist, his eyes fierce with determination. "Then tell me what we can do. Tell me how to bring my son back." Richter hesitated before speaking. "The only way to stop the augmentation from consuming him is to reverse the procedure. But the risk is high. If we try to undo what's been done, there's a chance it could kill him." Elon's heart lurched. "What are you saying? That I have to choose between my son's life and his humanity?" Richter's voice was grim. "Essentially, yes. If we don't reverse the process, Noah will continue to lose himself. The power will overtake him, and he'll never be the same. He'll be a machine, a weapon. Not a person." Elon's chest tightened with the weight of the decision. He had been so focused on finding a solution, on fixing the unfixable, that he had never stopped to ask the most important question: what was he willing to sacrifice to save his son? In front of him stood Noah, his son, but not the son he knew. This version of Noah was powerful, too powerful for a child to wield, too volatile for a human to control. And the longer he waited, the harder it would be to save him. "Dad," Noah's voice cut through Elon's thoughts, pulling him back to the present. "I don't want to go back. This is who I am now. You've always told me to reach for the stars. Well, I've done it. I'm more than you could ever imagine." The words were like a slap in the face. The boy Elon had raised, the boy who had once dreamt of a future of possibility, was now telling him he didn't need saving. He was telling Elon to let go. But Elon couldn't let go. Not without a fight. "Noah, listen to me," Elon said, his voice steady despite the storm raging inside him. "You're still my son. The person you were, the boy you were, is still inside you. I know you're scared. I know you don't understand everything that's happening. But you can't give up. We'll find a way back. Noah's eyes flickered, something faint but familiar flashing behind them. For the briefest of moments, Elon saw his son again. He saw the boy who had been so full of life, so full of promise. But then the moment passed. Noah's gaze grew distant again, his expression hardening. I don't want to go back, he repeated, his voice cold. Elon's heart shattered once more, but he refused to give up. If Noah wouldn't choose to save himself, then Elon would have to make that choice for him. Then I'll make the choice for you, Elon said, his voice resolute. I'll find a way to save you, Noah. I won't lose you. With that, Elon turned to Dr. Richter. Prepare the reversal procedure. Now. Richter's face went pale. Elon, you have to understand, this could kill him. The changes in his brain, in his body, they might be irreversible. I don't care, Elon snapped. I won't lose him. Do it. As Richter moved toward the equipment to initiate the reversal process, Elon stepped closer to Noah, his son now on the precipice of something far darker than he had ever imagined. He placed a hand on Noah's shoulder, feeling the tremors of power coursing through him. I'm sorry, Noah, Elon whispered. But I will always choose you. No matter what. Noah's expression softened just for a moment, but then the power surged again, and he pulled away, his eyes flashing with something darker. I'm sorry, Dad, he said. But you can't stop me now. The room buzzed with an eerie quiet, the air thick with the weight of a decision that could not be undone. Elon stood at the center of it all, heart pounding, watching as Dr. Richter prepared the equipment for the reversal procedure. He glanced at Noah, who had positioned himself at the far end of the room, his body still trembling with the raw energy that seemed to pulse through him. Noah, Elon called softly, his voice raw with emotion. Please. We can fix this. Noah didn't respond. His eyes remained fixed on the floor, his hands clenched into fists, trembling with the sheer power coursing through his veins. The boy who had once dreamed of a future of possibility, of flying to Mars, of conquering the unknown, was now a stranger, consumed by a force he couldn't control. I told you, Dad, Noah finally spoke, his voice low but firm, tinged with a quiet bitterness. This is who I am now. I'm not that kid anymore. I'm stronger. I'm better. Elon swallowed hard, feeling the lump in his throat tighten. No, Noah, you're still you. This power, it's not you. It's changing you. I can't lose you like this. Noah's gaze flickered, but there was no recognition in his eyes. No connection to the boy who had once been so full of life, so full of hope. The change in him was more than just physical. It was as if Noah had been consumed by something otherworldly, a force that was now driving him further and further from the person he had been. You don't get it, do you? Noah said, stepping forward, his voice growing colder. This isn't something I can walk away from. I've touched something, beyond human. I've become something greater. And I'm not going back to what I was. Elon's mind raced as he stood before his son. Everything he had done, everything he had hoped for, had led to this moment, the irreversible changes in Noah's mind, the uncontrollable power within him. The thought of losing Noah forever was unbearable. But the thought of allowing him to remain like this, lost to the power that had overtaken him, was even worse. Dr. Richter stepped forward, his voice cautious but filled with urgency. Elon, time is running out. If we don't intervene now, the procedure might not work. His mind, his neural pathways, are becoming too volatile. We might lose him entirely. Elon felt a pang of panic in his chest. I know. I know. But if we reverse it, there's no guarantee that Noah will survive. This power. It's too much for his body to handle. And what if we don't reverse it? Richter's question hung in the air like a deadly weight. What if we let him continue down this path? what if he's already too far gone? Elon's mind spun, the possibilities endless and terrifying. His son was slipping away, and no matter what he did, he wasn't sure if he could save him. Every choice felt like a gamble. A choice between a future where Noah could be saved, his humanity restored, or a future where Noah's transformation would consume him, leaving him a mere shell of what he had been. Noah's fists clenched, and his whole body tensed as if he were fighting against something inside of him. "I don't need saving," he muttered, his voice strained, almost desperate. "I'm more than you think. I'm beyond all of this." Elon could see the conflict in his son's eyes, the brief flickers of doubt that passed across his face. But they were fleeting, lost beneath the overwhelming surge of power that Noah was struggling to control. "Noah," Elon said softly, taking a step closer, his heart breaking. "You don't have to do this alone. You don't have to be something you're not. You can be the person you were meant to be. I'm here for you, son." But Noah didn't answer. Instead, his body jerked with violent energy, and a crackling force shot through the room. The monitors around them began to flash wildly, the hum of power growing louder, more intense. "Noah!" Elon shouted, but his son was already too far gone, his body thrumming with raw energy, as though he were being pulled into a force he couldn't escape. "Do it, Richter," Elon said, his voice barely audible, filled with a mix of sorrow and determination. "Start the procedure." Dr. Richter hesitated, looking between Elon and Noah. "Elon, are you sure? If we reverse it now, it might kill him. There's no going back." Elon felt his throat tighten with emotion. His son was slipping away, and he was running out of time. There were no guarantees. There never had been. But one thing was certain, he couldn't stand by and do nothing. "I'm not sure," Elon whispered. "But I can't lose him." As Richter began to activate the procedure, a series of alarms went off. The equipment hummed to life, and the room was flooded with a harsh, blinding light. Noah's body convulsed, his eyes snapping open as his head jerked back, the power inside him surging. "No!" Noah screamed, his voice hoarse with pain. "Stop! I won't go back." But the reversal procedure had already begun. The energy from the machine flowed into Noah's body, attempting to undo the neural augmentations that had transformed him into something else. For a moment, the room was still, the only sound being the steady hum of the machine. Elon watched, heart pounding, as Noah's body began to thrash violently. Sweat poured down his son's face, and his eyes flashed with a mixture of rage and fear. "Noah!" Elon cried, reaching for him. But Noah pulled away, his body jerking as if he were caught in a battle between his old self and the power that now consumed him. For what felt like an eternity, Noah fought against the machine, against his father, against the reversal process itself. Elon could see the pain and fear in his son's eyes as the power surged through him, threatening to tear him apart. "Dad, please!" Noah gasped, his voice breaking with desperation. "I can't stop it. I can't control it anymore." Elon reached out, his hands trembling. "You don't have to control it, son. You just have to let me help you." But Noah's body shook violently, and with a final cry of anguish, he collapsed to the ground. The room fell silent. The light from the machine flickered and died, leaving only the quiet hum of the monitors. Elon rushed to Noah's side, his heart racing. For a moment, he feared the worst. But then he saw it, the faint rise and fall of his son's chest. Noah was alive. The sterile white walls of the lab seemed to close in around Elon as he sat beside his son's bed, his gaze fixed on Noah's pale face. The procedure had worked, at least, for now. But there was no denying the toll it had taken. Noah's body lay motionless, his chest rising and falling in shallow breaths, but his eyes remained closed, as though trapped in some kind of deep, uneasy sleep. Elon ran a hand over his face, feeling the weight of the past few days pressing down on him. He had saved Noah, he had made the decision to reverse the process, to undo the neural augmentations that had transformed his son. But in doing so, he wasn't sure what he had saved. The boy who had once been full of life, full of dreams, was slipping away in ways that no procedure could fix. Dr. Richter stood in the corner of the room, his arms crossed, watching quietly. The scientist had been a part of this experiment from the beginning, but now there was no excitement in his eyes, only concern and a creeping sense of doubt. They had all seen the dangers, but it had felt like the only option left. "How is he?" Richter asked, his voice quiet, almost uncertain. Elon sighed, his voice tight. "He's alive. But I don't know if he's really living anymore." Richter nodded, clearly understanding the weight of Elon's words. The changes to his brain were extensive. "We've reversed the augmentation, but we can't undo everything. The power inside him, it's still there, latent. It's only a matter of time before it resurfaces." Elon's jaw tightened. "I'm not letting him go back to that. We have to figure this out. He's my son." There was a brief silence before Richter spoke again, his tone more cautious. "We might not have a choice, Elon. If we try to remove the power completely, it could destroy him. The augmentation has integrated into his very biology. It's part of him now." Elon stood up abruptly, frustration bubbling inside him. "I don't care. He's my son. I'll figure something out." It wasn't long before a faint groan escaped Noah's lips. Elon's heart skipped a beat, and he immediately leaned over the bed, his hand gently touching his son's arm. "Noah," he said softly, his voice full of hope. "Son, are you awake?" Noah's eyelids fluttered, and for a moment, Elon feared that he was trapped in some kind of nightmare. Locked in a state where he couldn't reach his son. But then, Noah's eyes slowly opened, revealing a mix of confusion and pain. "Elon." Noah's voice was weak, barely above a whisper. "Dad, what happened?" Elon's breath caught in his throat. It was him. It was the son he had known. But there was something different in Noah's eyes, a distant, haunted look that he couldn't ignore. "You're safe now," Elon said, his voice thick with emotion. "The procedure worked. You're going to be okay." Noah blinked, his gaze shifting to the machines around him. "What happened to me?" His voice trembled. "What did you do to me, Dad?" Elon's heart ached as he searched for the right words. How could he explain the horror, the fear, and the desperation that had led him to this point? How could he explain that in trying to save his son, he had nearly lost him forever? "You were changed, Noah," Elon said softly, his voice breaking. "You were altered by something we thought would help, but it only made things worse. I had to reverse it. I had to save you." Noah's gaze turned distant, his expression clouding with confusion. "Altered, how? What happened to me, Dad? Why do I feel different?" Elon struggled to find the words. "The power inside you. It was overwhelming. We thought it would help you, that it would make things better, but it took you further away from who you were. From who I knew." Noah looked down at his hands, his fingers trembling as he curled them into fists. I remember feeling invincible. Like nothing could hurt me. But now, I don't know. I don't know who I am anymore." The room felt cold despite the warmth of the lights. Elon stood there, watching his son's face as a storm of emotions raged inside him. Noah was no longer the same, and neither was Elon. He had done what he thought was best, but now he wasn't sure it had been enough. Noah's eyes met his, filled with a deep sadness. "I feel empty, Dad. Like I'm missing something. Like I was something, someone else before, and now I'm just here. I don't feel human anymore." The words hit Elon like a punch to the gut. His son, who had once been full of hope and dreams, was now questioning his very existence. The very power that had once been the promise of a new future now felt like a curse, a force that had stripped Noah of his identity and replaced it with something unrecognizable. "You're still you, son," Elon said, his voice soft but firm. "You're still the boy who dreamed of flying to Mars. You're still the person who wanted to change the world. That hasn't gone away. It's just buried under all this power. But I'm here. I'll help you find yourself again." Noah shook his head slowly, his eyes filled with confusion and fear. "How? How do I find myself again? What if I can't remember who I was? What if the person I was, is gone?" Elon's heart clenched. "Noah, you're still you. You just need time. I know it's going to be hard, but we'll figure this out together. I'm not giving up on you. You're my son. And I love you." The hours passed slowly, each minute a reminder of the weight of what had been done. The power inside Noah still lingered, deep within him, threatening to resurface at any moment. Elon had hoped that the reversal would give his son back the life he had lost, but instead, it felt as though he had unleashed something else, something that would always remain a part of Noah. Richter returned to the room later that evening, his expression grim. "We've seen this before," he said, his tone hesitant. "The changes, they're not completely gone. The neural pathways, the enhancements, they're still there. They're dormant, but they're not gone." Elon turned sharply to face him. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that Noah's transformation is permanent," Richter explained quietly. "We've stopped it from progressing, but the augmentation is still a part of him. We can't undo it entirely. He'll have to live with it." Noah sat in the bed, his face a mixture of confusion and horror as he listened to the conversation. The reality of what had been done to him was starting to sink in, and he didn't know how to cope with it. He had always believed that power could change the world. But now, in the aftermath, he wasn't sure if the world he had dreamed of was worth the price of what he had lost. The world outside the lab was alive with the hum of a city in constant motion, but inside the sterile white walls, time seemed to slow to a crawl. Noah stood by the window, his gaze distant, his thoughts consumed by the changes that had irrevocably altered his life. The power inside him still simmered, dormant but present, a constant reminder of what he had become. Elon paced back and forth, his mind racing with thoughts of what to do next. They had tried everything, every procedure, every approach they could think of, but nothing had worked. The neural augmentation was still there, deeply embedded in Noah's body, and there was no going back. "This isn't over," Elon said quietly, more to himself than to Noah. "We can still fix this. We have to." Noah turned away from the window, his eyes dark with uncertainty. "What do you mean, Dad? We've tried everything. I can't be fixed. I'm not the same anymore." Elon stopped in his tracks, his heart aching at the words. "Noah, don't say that. I will find a way. I'm not giving up on you. You're still my son. You've always been my son." But even as he said the words, a bitter truth gnawed at the back of his mind. There were no guarantees left. The power inside Noah was too unpredictable, too dangerous to ignore. The more time passed, the less sure Elon became of what he could do. Was it even possible to reverse the changes, or had he already lost his son forever? Weeks had passed since the procedure, and Noah's condition had stabilized, but the underlying power inside him still loomed like a dark cloud over everything. His days were spent in silence, his nights restless, haunted by visions of the man he had once been and the monster he feared he had become. In an effort to find a solution, Elon and Noah turned to one last desperate hope, a long-forgotten scientist who had once worked on neural enhancements before disappearing from the scientific community. Her name was Dr. Helena Frost, and if there was anyone who might have the knowledge to reverse the augmentation, it was her. "We have to find her," Elon said, his eyes burning with determination. "She was the one who pioneered some of the early work on neural enhancements. If anyone can help us, it's her." Noah was silent for a long time, staring at his father as if weighing his options. And what if we find her, Dad? What if she can help me? What if she can't? What happens then? The weight of his son's words hung heavily in the air. There were no guarantees. But Elon knew he had to try. For Noah. For the future. We don't have a choice. We have to try. The search for Dr. Frost took them across the world, to a small, hidden lab in the Swiss Alps where she had supposedly been working in isolation for the last decade. It was a long shot, but it was the only lead they had left. As they arrived in the remote village near the lab, the reality of their situation sank in. The crisp, cold air felt different now, as if even nature was holding its breath. Elon and Noah made their way through the snow, the ground beneath their feet crunching with every step. The journey had been long, and the road ahead still felt uncertain. "Do you think she'll actually help us?" Noah asked, his voice barely audible over the wind. His breath fogged in the air as he walked beside his father, his steps heavy, burdened by the weight of his own doubts. "I don't know, son," Elon said quietly, his eyes on the horizon. "But we won't know unless we try. This is our last shot." As they reached the entrance to the secluded lab, the door creaked open, revealing a woman in her late 50s, with sharp features and a presence that demanded attention. Dr. Helena Frost was a figure both respected and feared in the scientific community. Her reputation for pushing the boundaries of human augmentation had made her both a pioneer and a pariah. "You're Elon Musk," Dr. Frost said, her voice low but steady. "And you brought your son with you?" Elon nodded, his heart pounding in his chest. "Dr. Frost, we need your help. My son, he's been altered. We need to undo the damage before it's too late." Dr. Frost studied them both for a long moment, her eyes flicking to Noah before returning to Elon. "I know what you're asking," she said quietly. "But undoing this, it's not as simple as you think. The augmentation you've subjected him to, it's not something that can be reversed easily." The words hung in the air like a death sentence, each one sinking deeper into Elon's chest. He had known there were no easy answers, but to hear Dr. Frost speak of it so plainly made the situation feel even more hopeless. "Elon, you're asking for something that is beyond what I can do," Dr. Frost continued. "The neural enhancements you've applied to your son, those are irreversible. You can't just wish them away." Noah's face tightened with frustration. "Then why are we even here? If there's no cure, then why did we come all this way?" "Dar." Frost's gaze softened, and she walked toward them, her hands clasped behind her back. "Because there is a chance. But it's not without its risks." Elon looked up, hope flickering in his chest. "What do you mean?" "There's a procedure," Dr. Frost explained. "A procedure that could sever the link between Noah's mind and the augmentation. It could restore him to what he was before, but it could also destroy him." Noah's heart raced at the thought. "What do you mean, destroy me?" "Severing the augmentation completely would mean severing the connection between your brain and the neural pathways it's now integrated with," Dr. Frost explained. "It would be like rewiring your entire mind. And there's a very real chance you wouldn't survive the process." Elon's blood ran cold. The risk was enormous. But what other choice did they have? Noah's face was pale, but his eyes burned with a mixture of fear and determination. "I don't care what it takes," he said, his voice shaking. "I don't want to be like this anymore. I need to be me again." Elon looked at his son, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. This was it, the final decision. The chance to save his son, or to risk losing him forever. "Do it," Elon said, his voice thick with emotion. "If there's even the slightest chance, we have to try. For Noah. For our future." Dr. Frost nodded slowly. "Very well. But understand this, Elon. The road ahead will be a difficult one. Even if the procedure works, your son will never be the same. He will have to learn to live without the power that has consumed him." Noah nodded, his resolve firm. I'm ready. I have to be. The cold, sterile air of Dr. Frost's lab felt like a prelude to something much darker as Elon stood by Noah's side. The room was a mix of shadows and bright fluorescent lights, casting an eerie glow on the sleek equipment that surrounded them. In the center, a bed sat under a high-tech canopy, waiting for Noah. Elon's heart raced. The final procedure was about to begin. Everything they had done, all the choices they had made, led them here. This was their last hope, a chance to undo the irreversible, to separate the monster from the boy. Noah lay on the bed, his eyes closed, his hands resting at his sides, palms open. His face was pale, and his body stiff, but there was a glimmer of determination in his eyes, as though he had already made peace with whatever would come next. Are you sure you're ready for this? Dr. Frost asked, her voice quiet but unwavering. She had prepared for this moment for years, but she still didn't know if the procedure would succeed. The risks were catastrophic, and Noah's life, his very mind, was at stake. Noah nodded slowly, the weight of his decision clear in the furrow of his brow. I don't have a choice anymore. This is the only way to take back what I lost. I have to do this, for me. For my dad. Elon squeezed his son's hand, trying to steady his own nerves. We're in this together. I'm right here, Noah. Always. Dr. Frost motioned for them to step aside as she prepared the machines. The hum of the high-tech devices filled the silence, creating a strange rhythm that only heightened the tension in the room. The procedure would be long, complicated, and dangerous. But this was the only chance they had left. We're beginning now, Dr. Frost said, her voice steady. I need you both to stay calm. There's no turning back after this. The machines whirred to life, sending a low vibration through the floor. Elon could see the monitors flickering, tracking Noah's brain activity as the procedure began. Needles and wires were inserted into Noah's scalp, directly into the neural network that had once enhanced him and had since caused so much pain. As the procedure continued, Noah's body twitched slightly, his fingers flexing, and his breathing becoming more erratic. It was as though something deep inside him was fighting back, resisting the changes that were being forced upon him. His chest heaved, and sweat beaded on his forehead. Elon's stomach twisted with anxiety. He could only watch as Dr. Frost worked with practiced precision, entering data into the machines, recalibrating settings, and making adjustments as she went. Every moment felt like an eternity. Stay with me, Noah, Elon whispered, his voice filled with emotion. You're going to make it through this. Just breathe. You're strong. Noah's eyes opened for a moment, locking onto his father's, his gaze filled with a mixture of fear and hope. I don't know if I'm strong anymore, Dad. You are. You always have been. Don't forget that, Elon said, his voice firm. He knew Noah needed to hear it. He needed to believe it, too. The procedure had only just begun, but Noah could already feel the pain rippling through his body. His head felt like it was being pulled apart. His mind, once fully integrated with the augmentation, was now being violently severed from it. Each pulse of pain felt like a loss, a piece of himself being ripped away. Dad, Noah gasped, his voice strained. It's hurting, so much. I know, son, Elon said, his hand still gripping Noah's. It's going to be hard. But you can do this. We've come this far. Tears welled up in Elon's eyes as he watched his son fight through the agony, but Noah's face remained set with determination. The boy who had once dreamt of conquering the stars was now fighting to reclaim his soul. Dr. Frost's face was grim as she monitored the procedure's progress. We're getting close, she muttered, her voice tight. But I'm seeing some unusual activity. His body is resisting the procedure more than I anticipated. What does that mean? Elon asked, his heart pounding in his chest. It means he's fighting the change, Dr. Frost explained, not looking up from the console. His brain has adapted to the augmentation. It's become part of him, and now he's fighting to keep it. Elon's pulse quickened. So what does that mean for him? It means we need to push through. If we stop now, he may never recover. Noah's body twitched again, his muscles seizing as if he were being torn in two. He screamed, his voice raw with pain. I can't. I can't. Dad, it's too much, Noah gasped. You can do it, Noah. You're almost there. Elon urged, his voice breaking. Stay with me, son. Don't give up now. The machines hummed louder, and Dr. Frost's hands flew over the controls, making final adjustments. The procedure was reaching its peak. Noah's body was pushing against the process, fighting to stay connected to the augmentation, but slowly, the changes began to take effect. Noah's breath slowed, the pain beginning to ebb as the power inside him gradually withdrew. His body relaxed, his limbs no longer twitching, and his breathing steadied. Elon could feel a sense of relief wash over him, but there was still a long way to go. The room fell into a tense silence, the only sound the rhythmic beeping of the monitors. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Dr. Frost looked up, her expression somber. It's done. Noah's eyes fluttered open again, and for the first time since the procedure had begun, there was no pain. His mind felt clear, crystal clear. The constant hum of the augmentation that had once dominated his every thought was gone. In its place was a silence, a peace that he had longed for. Noah? Elon asked cautiously, his voice filled with both hope and fear. Noah's eyes focused on his father, his lips trembling. Dad. I feel like I'm me again. Tears welled up in Elon's eyes as he leaned over his son, grasping his hand. You are, son. You always were. You're back. Noah's gaze softened, and a faint smile tugged at the corners of his lips. But I'm not the same. I'm not the person I was before the augmentation. No, you're not, Elon agreed, his voice gentle. But you're still you. The real you. And that's what matters. As Noah's eyes filled with tears, Elon knew that they had made it through the storm together. They had both paid a heavy price, but they had found redemption on the other side. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in a long time, Elon felt a glimmer of hope for the future. After everything, Noah and Elon have emerged from the darkness. The power that once threatened to consume them has been severed, but at what cost? What's next for them? The story is over, but their journey is just beginning. The final transformation is complete. Do you think Noah will ever truly be the same? What do you think is next for him and Elon? Leave your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories of hope, redemption, and the power of family. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?